evening. I do hope that today you were able, through the lenses of God, to be able to collect and form a beautiful necklace of pearls that are full of blessing. The ordinary all around us really does overflow with those simplicities that we so often take for granted, but really can colour and inform our sense of wellness. So I do pray that somewhere today you were able to receive those. So as we share together in this evening's reflection, I hope that we are able to tune in to a listening that has something of Holy Spirit's discernment in it, that our hearts will be gracious and kind towards ourselves in the context in which we find ourselves. During this past week, my family and I had a reality check conversation. I wonder if you've had any of these kinds recently. As conversations go, it's possibly one which you've already had, whether with the people in the home in which you live, your family, or with other significant others. Perhaps you've even had this conversation before COVID-19. But we felt that we needed to stop, reflect, and just talk around some of the facts of what we know about COVID-19 and how we can create some sort of container for ourselves so that when a crisis comes, we're not in a space where we can't think and we don't have information at hand. So we know that some of the impact of the virus is what happens if we struggle to breathe and we can't communicate. What about the fact that no visitors are permitted when we are in hospital? And then, of course, the possibility does exist of death itself. The upshot of this conversation is that each of us decided we would make a list. Basically, the information takes up 2 sides of an A4 piece of paper. Things like our personal details, our ID, the PIN for our phone, our medical practitioners, there may be more than one, their contact details, our medical aid details, if we have a medical aid detail, our banking details, policies, funeral policies, whom to contact in case of death, and the various papers, where are those stored and where can we find them? Now, that sounds on one hand like quite a dire and depressing conversation to have, and yes, I have no doubt that for some people that is, and that's how it feels to be quite dire. But for me, it actually felt like a huge act of love. It feels like I am saying to those people who are nearest and dearest to me that I care. And I want to make things as simple and as effective as is humanly possible during a time of crisis. My motive really is to ease the way rather than to add to the situation or suffering. I hope that it will, to my family, also convey on an emotional level a sense of my presence with them, a kind of figurative holding of their hands. Some of you may have a host of other additional good suggestions of what to add to this, and so please feel free to WhatsApp me those, because it's so good, isn't it, to share those sorts of helpful tips as we go along in this journey of life with all of the various seasonings that we are experiencing. The other thing that I am thinking of doing is writing some love letters, an individual one to each of those that are nearest and dearest to me. The intention behind them is somehow to endeavor to convey something of how each of those people, each of these dearly beloveds, of how they've blessed my life, what their essence of being has done to enrich me and create something of who I am, to express my gratitude, as well as to shine a lens on some of the gifts and talents that they have, so that they can hold a record of something of what I have already said to them. It's not like these aren't things that I haven't told them. It's just that, so often we forget the good things that people have told us, and it's important perhaps to have this in a tangible form. And I would want to give that to the people I love that are closest to me. Now, whether I die at a later stage or COVID-19 related, to have this living legacy of love in written form would be a heritage of my handwriting, something that is a form of living memento, a connectivity of mutual influence, heart to heart, that would be a signature of love to offer to the other. There is and has been something so empowering for me in having brought these things out into the open, as opposed to keeping them discreetly at arm's length. Now that the elephant in the room has been named, I can describe it, I can befriend it, I can touch it and decorate it, I can discover some of the multi-gifts that are inherently part of it. Because God is part of everything, of course there are gifts there. One of the giftings is that I am finding myself asking, so what are the worthwhile memories that I personally am going to and are choosing to make during this time, and hopefully ongoingly, and hopefully have been in the past. But I'm just so much more consciously aware of that. I'm not talking here about those sorts of memories, those sorts of things that are going to be recorded in history books, medical and psychology journals, economic textbooks. I'm not talking about those kinds of memories. And I'm not talking either about simply saying, well, let's just buy time until things are better. For me, it's about how can I invest in this time by inhabiting it in ways which impact the energy of this world with God's fertile goodness. I'm asking myself, am I working constructively and collaboratively with the Holy Spirit to keep on evolving and entering that vulnerable, surrendered beauty of letting God's tenderness slowly draw aside more and more the coverings that are hiding part of God's soul, that is an intrinsic part of me, of you, of every living being. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote so many amazing books about grief and loss, and these are some words that she also wrote. The most beautiful people I've known are those who have known trials, who've known struggles and known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. Wouldn't it be wondrous and powerful if we were to emerge out of this time which we are labeling as COVID-19, the coronavirus, if we were to emerge out of this through the way of Christ as the most beautiful, soul-shining people. Good night, beloved, fragrant, soul-shining possibility people. May your sleep be holy and wholesome.